Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. James here as ever, or should I say welcome if you are new to actually visiting. I'm an ACCA qualified member from the UK, and today's video we're going to be going through the actual ACCA financial reporting examiner's commentary from the 2019 sample questions. So this is from the September and December. It's all to do with the Bun question on this. I think it's question 31. I'll put question 32 in the link above so you can click it. It's going to take you straight there as well. Now, as you know, this is a completely student-led channel, so Sanjith, I know you're watching out there. This is dedicated to you along with the other question on there, so thanks for getting in touch. If you guys listening out there have got any other questions or videos you want me to do, pop it in the comments below. I reply to all of them, and it's great to hear that you actually find the videos helpful. Feel free to give it a thumbs up as well and subscribe. It really helps the actual YouTube algorithm, as I'm finding out, so that more ACCA students out there can actually view this as well. So I really appreciate your support. Let's have a look at the actual question now, and I hope you enjoy it. So, as you can see on the screen, these are my examiner's commentary analysis notes, exactly how I used to do it as a student. Now, this is what, if you're actually doing the financial reporting exam, brilliant, this is definitely going to help you. But even if this isn't your exam, use the techniques, use the tactics. Some of them actually overlap into other exams as well, so follow it through, take down any side notes, and it will definitely help you. The first thing I'd make sure you do is go to the description of this video below, click the link. It's going to take you directly onto the ACCA website where this document can be found, so you can follow it through exactly as I'm doing as well. I'm going to make sure I go into real good detail on this so you get the most amount of added value out of it, okay? So we're just going to go through each point one by one. That what did I pick out when I reviewed this from a student's perspective, from a marker's perspective, and from my ACCA experience perspective as well. So let's get stuck in. So as we look through on the screen, this is the Bun question. It was question 31 in the financial reporting exam from the September and December 2019 sample. So I'm just going to go through each of the ones on here as to areas that definitely will help you. So this is based on the actual observations of the actual marking team. So in other words, people who actually marked the financial reporting paper last year, these are the common features that they saw kept on coming up again and again and again. So you're not going to make that mistake because you're watching this video. We've got to identify the issues, and we're going to go through them now one by one. So first of all, if you haven't got it written down, give or take, you have 180 minutes, excluding that 15 minutes at the start for the reading time, to do the 100 marks. So 1.8 minutes per mark. Have a look at my other videos in terms of the actual analysis of this question, and that will help you actually time management, because that was one of the fundamental things in this actual paper. The majority of the marks actually came from the analysis of the financial performance and position question. Notice there two aspects that you need to answer. If you only answer one, you're really limiting your marks there to half on that question. And if you're only going to get half on the actual part of the examination question that is fundamental to this, well, you're leaving yourself in real trouble there, I would say. So coming on to actual question one there, we've got to look at the first aspect, and this was a case of actually recognising what was going on because we had an event after the reporting period. This is a adjusting event after the year end. Notice highlighted in yellow, these are the fundamental standards that you need to be aware of. The key technique here in an ACCA exam is identifying what is going on, okay, and then secondly, identifying which standard that relates to. So in this case, we had IAS 10, the events after the reporting period, and then secondly, IAS 2 in regards to inventories. Some standards actually come up more often than others, but try to think of it as a case of, well, I'd rather actually attempt to put down a standard than not to put down one at all. So many students fail to actually be specific with the standards, so try to get that into your revision technique. So we had to have a adjusting event, we had to restate, we had net realisable value to calculate, and this was all to do with the actual inventory in terms of the calculations and how we actually adjust for it. So calculating the actual amount was really fundamental here. And this was a case from actually reading the examiner's points as students really didn't have a go, didn't go into much detail, and didn't really fundamentally understand the concepts of it as well. So it all comes down to the question analysis, taking that breather at the start and understanding the fundamentals of what is going on in this scenario, and then going, okay, I understand what's going on now, but what about the technicalities of where it links to as well? So moving on further down, so you've actually attempted to try and adjust the inventory as well. That was one of the things on here, but the next aspect where my mouse is something called the own figure rule, okay? And this is, I even wrote it on there, fundamental. What that means is, from your workings in your actual online paper, or if we're back to face-to-face, who knows in terms of this, whatever figure you get down from your workings, these are carried forward. So if you make a small mistake at the start, but you carry on all of the working process all the way through, you will get the marks. This is called the own figure rule, that even if you've made a mistake at the start, you get an answer, but you carry forward that own figure, and you will accumulate the marks for it, and you won't miss out. Fundamental that you write down all of your workings and showcase them to the marker, that you understand the concepts and how they are applied as well. As you can see from what I underlined from what the external examiner said, candidates did not attempt to adjust the cost of sales, very disappointing, and adjusting the retained earnings. So this was a case of learning the process, what was happening in terms of the workings, and even if you got your figure wrong at the start, the actual adjustment, the 0.6 million, you'd have got some working marks for actually attempting this. And as you can see in the actual examiner's notes, do you really want to disappoint the external examiner and the marker in your script? Well, if you follow these notes, you will not. But how many people actually follow them? That's the interesting thing. Coming on to the next point on here, we have again the own figure rule, where we had to calculate 5 ratios. But this was a case of making sure you actually use the correct, that was the key thing here, adjusted financial statements. So if you're using your own balances here and following the inventory figures, you'd have picked up on all of the marks from this as well. So even if you made, again, those small mistakes, it's all about getting down the workings. It's going to come with past paper practice, hence why I've reviewed this exam top to bottom as well, for your benefit. We now come on to the actual fundamental ACCA exam technique on here, and I've underlined a lot in red on here. Let me just talk you through it. Candidates continue to provide ratio calculations without supporting workings. Markers are unable to award own figure marks for incorrect calculations if workings are not provided. So in other words, what they're saying there is, if you'd have just written down gross profit margin 20%, and 20% is incorrect for the gross profit margin, you get 0. But if you actually wrote down the formula, then wrote down your workings, then wrote down the answer, you may, even if you got it wrong, pick up a half mark in terms of workings. And I don't know about you, but I would rather get a half mark than no marks on it. So fundamental thing when you're going through your revision, what do my workings look like compared to the actual answer sheet as well? And what areas do I need to work on? That again, the word fundamental keeps coming up because that is what the external markers are looking for, and you need to get down on paper. So where do we come on to next? We have silly errors. So this comes down to giving yourself maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the actual paper, reading through. I've got a great video on fishing for marks on this as well. Just reading through the requirements, understanding fundamentally what they are asking for. Don't answer the question that you want to answer. Answer the question the examiners are asking. Because as you can see on here, easy marks being lost. Read the information carefully. Yes, this is a time-pressured exam, but I'd rather take that extra deep breath and actual thought process to go, right, I fully understand what they're asking for here. I've done my question analysis, and now I can actually approach this 10 times better as a result, and I'm going to pick up on those easy gimme marks that are going to get me closer to that 50 threshold. Now, coming on to part B, this is one of the other fundamental aspects on here that they mention at the start. This is where the majority of the actual marks are allocated on here. And a bit of exam technique you'll see in most of my videos that I picked up on, disappointingly later on into my professional and option papers, is when you're analysing the requirement, pick out all of the aspects they are looking for. It helps you so much, and hence you'll see on the top of the questions, performance 1, position 2. So that tells me and indicates to me I've got 2 aspects I need to answer here, and if I don't answer those 2 aspects, I'm missing out and throwing away marks. You might as well put a bin at the front of the exam and just throw the marks in there, because if I don't answer something about performance or position, I'm not going to get them. So this is where, again, if you've got a pen and paper with you, a fundamental aspect again is refer to the scenario. There were too many answers that were superficial or textbook responses, as the external examiner pointed out, and not enough being specific to the actual scenario. You've got to be specific to the actual industry average and what is going on in the question. If you don't do that, you are limiting your marks again. It keeps on coming up again and again. So it's not just in this paper, in audit, in corporate reporting, in various other exams. Be specific to the actual requirement. That is fundamental to you. And in some cases, as you can see on the screen on here, students simply cited, they simply ignored the scenario as well. So in other words, they've read the textbook, they've had a look online, they've maybe watched one of our other videos, and then gone, oh, there's a few points on here, I can just put them in. We'll just button them in. But that is not what they're looking for. You need to be specific to the industry, specific to the product, and specific to the scenario as well. That is a must. And they even put the must, specific given in the question, must be used, okay, to get the actual marks. So some students are only really scratching the surface on this as well, and that is one area I'd make sure you definitely look to whenever you're reading the requirement, question 1, question 5, whether it's the start of the exam or the end of the exam. Just think to yourself, what is the requirement going on about, and what scenario do I need to actually relate it back to? Take the concepts and apply it to the scenario, and you will pick up greater levels of marks. But there was on here as well something pleasing, as you can see. So the marking team were pleased at an attempt at a conclusion. So when you're actually analysing a question, so the actual performance from the ratios above and the position, actually saying at the end of it, well, what does this actually mean as well? Okay, so you've got pros and cons, but what does this mean for the actual company themselves? Are they in a better or worse scenario? Thinking short term, long term. Suggest solutions. These are things that can get you marks, but are continually usually overlooked. But pleasing when students attempted this last time, that they actually picked up on these kind of marks. So don't overlook that. Think from an actual business perspective as well. If you were a financial accountant looking after the business itself, what would you actually advise going forward? So finally coming on to part C now as well, incorrect approach. So what we're referring to here is a classic ACCA exam technique of we've done part A, we've done part B, we've got a bit more tired, we've written down lots and lots, and we get to part C and we're a bit lethargic, losing a bit of concentration, forgot what was in the requirement at the start, and it was just picking up on explain 3 possible limitations. That was it. So you've got to give them 3. Got to give them 3 in terms of it, because it was only for 3 marks as well. So you've got to go into a relative bit of detail on here, a couple of sentences, maybe 3, to make sure you guarantee that point. But the key thing for part C was, are you being generic or are you being specific? Specific answers get the 1 mark, generic answers get nil or half. That's what they're referring to here. So as we can see from their comments on the screen, presented as a list rather than explained, generic, relating to industry specific, that is going to be specific. We're going to have limitations, Markers were unable to award marks. Responses must relate to the question asked. So limitations, pick up on those key trigger words as well from your question analysis. And if you look at my other video, I put it in the description below. That'll help you out, that if you can remember those trigger words, you can actually write about them further and further along. Well, that wasn't too bad, was it? Nice and easy. Well, that is one done. Financial reporting, external examiners' comments, fully analysed top to bottom with points that you will be able to put into play for your upcoming exam. If you found today's video helpful, feel free to drop us a like below. Comment any other topics you would like me to go through as well that you're particularly maybe struggling with. Let me know how you get on with your exam, and at the end of this video there'll also be the link so that you can access the question analysis to go with the actual examiner's report as well. If you go through this a couple of times, you'll pick up on loads of different aspects so that you will continue to pick up on those marks, getting on the way so that you achieve your goal of passing ACCA. As always, feel free to drop us a subscribe as well to keep in touch, but as always on that bombshell, I'll see you next time. Cheers!